Phuthego Mojapele is an aviation analyst. Phuthego, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. Over 21 billion rand to be spent by airports company South Africa over the next few years. I mean, that's clearly a big bet, a big prediction that our aviation sector is definitely going to grow. Are you expecting it to grow that strongly?
Yeah, look, I think that capital needs to be spent more on the Cape Town International. I think Cape Town at the moment is struggling, it's battling, particularly around the domestic terminals. They seem to be not really winning in terms of the numbers that they're getting. You'd remember that, Cape Town is one of the most busiest routes in South Africa. Not just South Africa, but also international. They seem to be picking up quite a number of airlines that are interested in flying into Cape Town. So that number would definitely come in handy to improve the facility that they currently have. At the moment, is not coping, particularly on domestic, and I think the domestic terminal needs an urgent attention, and I think the CEO has indicated that they are going to prioritize domestic terminal to try and beef up the amount of volumes that they are receiving currently on the domestic terminals. So that would also take us more on building another runway, which is something that has always been problematic, because currently we're running only with one runway, 01 and 19, which sometimes when there's a problem like last year where there was hydraulic fluid that spilled on that runway, all the traffic was diverted to Johannesburg, and there was a major delays, and airlines suffered quite extensive amount of losses on revenue income.
If you're going to spend money on a domestic terminal at Cape Town, obviously you have to expect that there'll be a lot more demand and a lot more domestic aviation. Key to that is SAA. SAA, I mean, for years and years was the biggest domestic operator. It's not anymore. Now going through to the Takatso Consortium. Is the Takatso Consortium going to have to get its own license? At the moment, I presume government owns the license for SAA.
Yeah, look, at the moment, SAA has a license, but there's processes. As we speak now, the Takatso deal is before the licensing council. They are now going to appear before the licensing council with regard to this transaction of SAA. Now, that will be ventilated on the hearing that the licensing council will be holding together with the South African Airways. So we're yet to hear what would the proposal of the council be based on the fact that the transaction has sort of got a thumbs up from all the stakeholders. But as far as the license of SAA is concerned, it's still standing. And the growth is not only for the SAA, if I may say. I mean, you have other airlines that are growing, and just to give you a background, I mean, we have the likes of Airlink that have increased the number of a fleet, as well as SAF Air also increasing the fleet. So yes, the growth is going to be there, and I think we are looking forward to see much more other competitors, coming into the space and increase capacity on the flight services that are running in between.
FlySafair really has grown over the last few years. I understand that actually other operators have brought a complaint against them based on their ownership and the status of that ownership.
Yes, the Global as well as the Airlink, they have approached the council with substantial amount of evidence that the FlySafair is not South African owned, as it were, like any other operator. And it looks like over 70% of the share of the airline is not South African owned. And Airlink and Global, they then approach the councils to say they really want the council to look into this matter and make sure that, competitively there's no disadvantage for them. And what they're also saying is that their artificial growth has always been something that they've been doubting, because it is not normal for an airline to just have this artificial growth that it has seen in the past couple of months or years, without really having a strong backup of some financial somewhere else. And indeed, they went ahead and laid this complaint with the evidence that they have to say SAF Air is not necessarily, the majority stake is not South African. It is sitting somewhere in Ireland. And therefore, they are requested the councils to make sure that they ventilate this matter and they have approved. They went ahead and just make sure that they want to be treated fairly. So it's something that we are going to be looking at, and let's hope that SAF Air will be able to justify where they get the much needed funds that other airlines are struggling to find to buy all these or to get all these fleets that they have.
If I remember correctly, Phuthego, if you ran a local airline in South Africa, you're only allowed 25% foreign ownership. I imagine someone somewhere might want to tackle the law. I mean, in today's day and age, is that normal to say that a domestic airline has to be owned by the country in which it operates?
Look, Stephen, this is globally, this is how, even in America, this is how things are. The local ownership has to take a maximum share of the stake in that entity. Countries do decide as to how they want to structure the deals on how they want to operate, having to appear before the council, because they need to comply with that and make sure that there isn't anything that is going to be a problem going forward, and they are not going to get an unfair advantage on the other airlines. So it cannot be left unattended, this issue of SAF Air. Indeed, Airlink and Global, they are right. They need to go through the channels and make sure that the percentage is what is stipulated on the regulation.